Hi, this is Rich Wurzbach. Good morning here from the Tribology Research Center at Knowledge Park on the campus of York College of Pennsylvania. Our new location adjacent to our existing lubricant analysis laboratory that we've operated for over 10 years here. But this morning I want to talk a little bit about the ICML 55 standard. And this morning I received my hard copy books for the ICML 55 standard, which includes 55.0.1 and .2. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what they are, the significance of them, and how they can be utilized effectively in an asset management program. So we may not be realizing that we are addressing an asset management program when we take a hard look at lubrication, but lubrication is one of the key areas that impacts asset performance, asset reliability, asset utilization, return on net assets, any of these metrics that you may want to look at. And when we find ourselves as asset owners in a situation where our assets are not performing as intended, as required, as hoped, as expected, we often turn to lubrication as a focal point. And even a funnel point for reliability in our organizations. And so for over 30 years, I've been responsible for lubrication programs, not only as part of an asset owner team internally, working in a maintenance department to do so, or working as a consultant in government facilities, but also in a training capacity, training others to achieve their lubrication goals and their asset performance goals. But also now as a ICML certified machine lubricant engineer, machine MLE, it really then puts the focus on utilizing this standard. So what's behind all this? Well, there's 3 books that have showed up for me here today. Here's the first. It's the ICML 55.0 standard. The title here, Optimized Lubrication of Mechanical Physical Assets Overview. And there's a couple key things I want to share with you, because you might be asking, like, what is the significance of this document? Is it of value to me, and can I utilize it? And so there's some kind of introduction here on what you find, but there's a few things that I wanted to point out. And really it all centers back into asset performance, right, and asset management. And at the very beginning, we've got the purpose here. It's to provide an overview of a lubricant management system and the process applicable to effective management of physical assets related to lubrication. And I think there's a key quote in here, and that would be that the adoption of ICML 55.1, which is the next one that we'll talk about here, those requirements will enable the organization to achieve its objectives of effectively and efficiently managing its physical lubrication and lubricant asset policies, strategies, and plans. So it really is meant to be a roadmap for asset operating organizations. Another quote here, a lubrication program should be designed to add value to the organization and its shareholders. And basically this document serving as a guide to where does lubrication management and a defined lubrication management system fit within the overall corporate management systems, which should include, obviously, asset management. And so when I'm trying to help an organization look at things from a lubrication standpoint, I often start by going to their corporate website and seeing what kind of programs and commitments are there. I look for the ISO standards that are in place. They could be quality management standards like ISO 9000, could refer to other standards like ISO 55000, 14001 related to environmental concerns and that sort of thing. But that's what you find in the ICML 55.0 standard. The next document is the 55.1 standard, the requirements for optimized lubrication and mechanical physical assets. And of course, that's what we're talking about with lubrication. And this is a more detailed document. As you go up, these become larger, more significant books, if you will. And so just kind of looking ahead into this document, there's some really high level type stuff, which should align to existing initiatives and existing expectations within your organization, like the act, plan, do, check cycle that we'll see through all sorts of initiatives. But we really start to talk about the specifics of ICML and the ICML 55 when we look at this kind of arrangement where we're looking everything from the lubricant, lubrication, the machine, the tools that are required, lubricant analysis, of course, near to my heart, but things like troubleshooting and inspecting, looking at waste and energy, reclaiming lubricants, all these elements coming in. There are these 12 key elements, and when this was initiated, I kind of looked back on work I had done for EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute, into developing a lubrication audit process for the electric power industry. And that's a document that I can share with you that's publicly available at this point because it's been out there for so long. But you can go to the EPRI.com website and look for my last name, Wurzbach, and audit, and lube and audit, and you'll see these documents come up. There were 12 there as well, and while the alignment is not the same, the intent is. And so what I've done is I've taken that approach and I've revised it to align to the ICML 55.1 12 key areas, that what we call the 12 interrelated lubrication program plan areas. 12 interrelated lubrication program plan areas. So we've taken this approach to lubrication audits and now given them a home, given them a process, given them a place to live within the overall approach to asset performance, right? Because lubrication in and of itself doesn't achieve anything. It's the assets that achieve it. It's the assets that are manufacturing parts. It's the assets that are supporting mining operations, supporting power generation, supporting vehicles, transportation, could be rail, pulp and paper. And so all of these areas, it's all about the assets and the reliable operation of those assets to achieve those outcomes. And so lubrication becomes a part to achieve that. And that's kind of the setting here. And so as you continue to look through this book, you see approach to the lubrication life cycle from the time that we buy lubricants and utilize them and test them and then dispose them or recycle them, looking through that entire process. It takes pretty much everything back to key standards. It could be ISO standards or ASTM standards. And then you get into these 12 areas like the lubrication management objectives, lubrication management plan development, and then finally having those 12 interrelated areas of a lubrication program plan. So there's been over the years a number of companies, consultants, individuals, organizations that have put themselves out there, like myself and others, to provide these audit services, and each would be a little bit different. Some with certain outcomes in the hands of the auditor themselves, wanting to see things like, well, it'd be good that we have a solution over here, and it'd be great if the result of the audit was to see more people use that solution, that product, that service, whatever it is. And so now we have this opportunity to align to a standard, an ISO standard, and have a process that follows that. And so I've done that. I've taken my audit report and I've now changed what I call the element or criteria to these 12 areas so that there is alignment to the ICML 55.1 standard. And so we can have that front end focus to be uniform. And what that helps us to do is going forward as an asset owner is you can set that expectation. When you have someone, when you recognize that an audit is needed within your facility to see where do I stand, can I benchmark, where are the weaknesses, where should I focus first, where should I allocate resources, and how am I going to get the quickest turnaround, you can then say in that process to say, I would like some organizations or individuals to come forward and propose a solution to do that. But my expectation is that it follows the ICML 55 standard in doing so, that it aligns to those 12 areas. And so now it's just not, what a consultant comes up with or thinks is the right thing to look at. we're now following the standard. And the nice thing about that is this becomes one part of a program to achieve ISO 55000, which is the asset management standard. So having a quality program in place for asset management can be kickstarted by focusing on lubrication first and using this this blueprint that's here from the ICML 55 standard to kick things off. And so it's always, the starting point should always be, where am I? And it's very hard to see that. People say, where's the worst, what's the worst you've ever seen when you do a lubrication audit? And I have to admit, it was probably my own first facility that I worked in, because I just didn't have the experience and the knowledge at that point to know what looked bad, what was bad, what was having a negative quality impact. And I can look back at it now and say there was so many different things I could be doing better. But what it does make me realize is that if we can get a new set of eyes, a fresh set of eyes from outside of our organization to look in and look for these things and have this roadmap, have this guidance to do that, it's really going to start me on that path. And what's additionally nice about it is then it leads right into the third book, which is the ICML 55.2 standard, which is now how do we implement? Okay, what is the optimized? How do we get that optimized lubrication of assets? And so you can see that this is a book that really is now the how to do it. It's first we're saying, well, what do we need to look at and how do we assess it? And how does that fit into our management programs? But now it's like, how do we go about making those changes? And this is all going to end up in an audit process, so that we can use this and then work with ICML ultimately to have ICML auditors to independently look at our programs to see how we stack up against this standard. So I wanted to take some time. I was kind of excited this morning to see these books show up. I did get a chance to play a role in my time when I was one of the board directors of ICML in moving this forward, having the funding for it, and contributing technically to it as well. And it's exciting to see this come forward. And I'm going to turn around and be using it in the services that we here at the Tribology Research Center and MRG Labs are offering to our customers, but also that other consultants, other companies that help asset owners improve their lubrication performance, they're going to have something that they can follow as well. And I really look forward to that.